Dear listeners, welcome to the 8th episode, the final episode for 2020 of the Wellbeing Podcast with me, Sandeep Neutron. Today, I have a dear friend of mine joining in from New York City. We had initially and to release this episode last week, but due to problems connecting with him, we had to postpone it for today. So I'm really looking forward to.
Hi, Sandeep.
What's going on, brother? How are you?
Good. It's a cold day in New York. It was snowing the last week, so there's snow on the ground. Everybody's cranky. It's slippery. It's wet. But I'm staying in good spirits. How are you doing, Sandeep?
I'm doing really good, Eric. Thank you so much for asking. Oh, was it the first snow of 2020 last week in New York City? Was it?
This season it was the first real snow where like the snow stuck to the ground and felt like winter. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw some of the pictures. It's like how many inches of snow?
It looked like, I don't know, maybe 8 inches or something. Where my parents live, it's up north. They got even more.
Damn, are they in New York now, or are they in Chicago right now?
No, actually, they moved to New Hampshire, which is, a few states north of here, kind of just north of Massachusetts.
Okay, yeah.
Which is beautiful up there, and they're used to snow. They're so used to it. When it snows, the plows are out right away. It's just a really nice place.
Awesome. Eric, tell me a little bit about your siblings as well. Like how many siblings you have?
So I have an older brother. He's 5 years older, and he is awesome. He lives in Miami or Fort Lauderdale, and he is a very smart guy. He now is an expert resume writer and helps like corporate people find jobs. He worked in HR for a long time, and then he went to the other side. And he writes articles. His name is Scott Singer. You can see what's called Insider Career Strategies. You can see him on Facebook. He writes cool articles. And if you need your resume to look amazing, he's kind of redone my resume a couple times, and it just looks so good. It opens so many doors. He's so good at what he does. And his wife, Rochelle, my sister-in-law, is a writer, and she's very talented as well.
Wow. So
yeah,
it is Scott and yourself, two of you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And take us to your childhood. I like to start with happy note. I'm gonna take you to your happy place, and we had this conversation last time, and it was really awesome. Can you take us to your favorite childhood memory? And it doesn't have to be the same one you shared with me last week, but in any event.
Yeah. Childhood was very happy. Grew up in Chicago until I was like 10 or so. And I think we were talking, my favorite memory, the moment I remember being happiest in my whole life was my first memory, which was when you're kind of riding on the back of your parents' bicycle.
Yeah.
And I remember it. I must have been 3. I remember my mom was wearing a green shirt and my dad was on a different bike. Wow. And I remember feeling like I was flying, but feeling safe and feeling happier than ever. Wow. And that was an incredible memory. But just being young is an incredible memory.
Do you ever feel like you want to chase that feeling again? Like, is it possible to get that sort of feeling ever in our life? What do you think?
I would say it's necessary. We're talking about chasing joy, which is dangerous, I think. Mm-hmm. They say, the past and nostalgia, it's a nice place to visit, but you don't want to live there.
Sure.
It kind of can do you a disservice. However, I do think the secret to everything is the whole idea of staying young and keeping the imagination of a young person and keeping the sense of hope, the curiosity, the always learning. So in those ways, yeah, I absolutely do chase that. But I know that chasing happiness and chasing the past is a dangerous, slippery slope at the same time.
Yeah, sure, sure. It's like Matthew McConaughey once said in the Oscar, like he always kept on chasing. Have you listened to that? Do you know what I'm talking about? Where he says like, all right, all right, all right.
Yeah, from Dazed and Confused.
I think so. Yeah. So,
Yep.
now that we're talking about chasing, you are in a perfect place to give those amazing memories to your kid now, right? Errol is gonna form amazing memories in his mind. How old is he, by the way?
He's 15 months, and you're absolutely right. It's just about giving him that happy, letting him be a kid, letting him experience that joy. And he does. It's kind of, what it's made clear to me is that that's actually our default. And I've heard people say this before, that, you know, you get older, you start chasing happiness, but when you were a kid, you were actually happy. I see this as we're teaching him to talk, and we want him to feel free and happy. But I know someday we're going to go into a store and he's going to feel free and happy and want to talk, and we're going to have to say, shh. And we're going to have to say, don't stand on that table. We're going to have to say, don't do this, don't do that, and basically take that instinct out of him. And it breaks my heart, because that really is the truest joy, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy, huh?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's crazy. You're right. Like, to really balance what we call a civilized society, and then to put real freedom, at least for kids, in perspective. I'm sure a lot of other parents can relate to it, right?
In a way, I guess you could conclude that happiness is the automatic setting, and it's living in society stifles you and takes it away from you. But again, happiness, you're not meant to be happy all the time. If you were happy all the time, you would get killed by wild animals thousands of years ago. It doesn't suit you to be happy all the time.
You're right. Like survival and happiness. Yeah. I mean,
happiness is comfort, right? So if you're always seeking comfort, you're going to end up hurting yourself some way or another.
Yeah. So okay. So let's move into the main topic now. So what's your opinion? You think it's comfort? What's your opinion?
Of what?
Of happiness.
Like I said before, happiness is, I think it's a temporary thing. You can talk about I'm generally happy, but someone who's happy 24 hours a day, there's something wrong with that person.
You also said something about remembering your childhood, and I don't know, but my mind says something like maybe when you are free, meaning when you are not caught up inside your own mind, like sincerely, when you're living in the moment, right? I guess. Is it?
There's something to that. The past and the future aren't even really here right now. I mean, besides childhood memory, and besides your kid, who you love so much, what is the thing you are chasing for? What's your if you could, like, what you want out of life yourself? When I had my son, that all changed. It's like happiness.
What was it before the son? What was it before the kid?
Before the kid, I would say that I didn't really understand. I was just chasing happiness like everyone else is.
Were you really chasing happiness, or do you think you might have chased like success, fame, name, money, things like that, excellency, like the
I,
perfect.
I think there's all that in this cocktail, but really, I think when I look back at it,
Yeah.
I think I was just in reaction to all these things, all these forces and the forces of the world. Like you're not actually in control of them.
I'm gonna stop, Eric. Sorry for the interruption, but for the listeners who doesn't know Eric, Eric is also extremely knowledgeable about so many things, but beers, which I know personally.
Yeah.
Okay, for for the guys who might be listening right now, can you would you mind telling us like a few things
Yeah.
about this beverage?
Well, it's interesting. That's an area where I found a sort of sense of purpose. I felt I really loved where it came from, and that if I knew enough about it, where I can kind of really make people have amazing experiences, whether it's learning or actually tasting in the moment, pairing stuff together. I just knew people had a ton of fun with it. So it's really rewarding. Thank you. It was incredibly rewarding to just work really hard and learn as much as I could, and then you get to a point where you know it so well. You know this from wine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if people know, but Sandeep is extremely good wine expert. So I know you understand where you get to a point where you don't have to think about it anymore, and all of a sudden it's kind of an art form. And that's really rewarding, where you can just take the middle out of it and just let it kind of come through from the other side. I thought that was an incredibly cool process, and I think that's something that beer lends itself to really easily, really well, because the flavors are so vivid, such a sensory experience.
Yeah, Eric, I haven't shared you one thing about like my perception about like I changed my profession. I changed what I was studying when I find wine. And I used to be a cellar rat before. When I used to be at the floor, just be cellar rat while I support working in the floor, and I was going to school, right? Then like same thing you said, the learning part was so fun and the flavors. It was just such a different world. But nowadays, it's been like 2 years, as a matter of fact. And it's been 6 months. Like it's been like 3 months. I haven't drank a single drop. It's been 2 years. 2 years I drank 10 times. I have a problem with intoxication. I love everything about this, wine and everything. But one thing, it's a really tricky subject too. Like abusing part, and I don't know. There's something about it. Like intoxication is. I felt myself as some form of way. I think it is against what we're chasing for. That's what I started thinking. But that's a different conversation we could have.
I would totally agree with you.
Are you a drinker, Eric? Are you a big drinker or not?
That's the funny thing. People were really surprised to hear I'm not like the biggest drinker. Like, you would be surprised when the last time I was drunk, I can't even remember. And even that chunk of time, like the last decade, I can remember maybe one or two, and it wasn't even intentional. As far as chasing your goals and as far as where that lies, I think you and I experience, there's always people that look at it and say like, oh, alcohol, it's, they see wine or beer. You and I see something different, but they're like alcohol, and then their whole line of thinking is just about, they don't get it, you know what I mean? That used to frustrate me, but I, eventually saw it as an opportunity to show them that it's much more. As far as chasing your goals, the intoxication, people rely on it because that first drink kind of takes the nerves away or whatever. But so they think it's helping them. They think it's
Yeah.
putting them into some sort of state. They think that it's putting them into, they think it's turning them into their real self.
Yeah.
But in fact, it's a crutch, especially because you learn to not be able to do it without it. And that's not
Yeah.
the actual game. That's not the actual skill. That's not the point.
Sure. Yeah. That's what exactly. That's what I was referring to. Among so many things, right? Because
We
the
think
learning
alike.
part, the sharing part, the experience, the flavors part are so amazing. But when we, because if we want to embrace that profession, right? We want to embrace it like wholly. We want to embrace all the aspects of it,
Yeah.
and if, like, for instance, like if I personally do not embrace like drinking,
Mhm.
how can I be a great sommelier
Yeah,
at motivating people to drink that great bottle of wine, right? So
that's
this is
interesting.
the thing that, yeah, and I've been a drinker for a long time myself, and towards the end, I think I abused it a little bit too, right?
Okay.
Before I came to Nepal, but it was understandable. Like, I had my own excuses, but when I look from a fresh mental perspective, I agree with it. The same thing what we were talking about.
Well, just
Okay.
to tie this back, if we have a second for one more point there.
Yeah.
A lot of people in the industry, if you look at statistics, become heavily dependent on alcohol. Alcoholism in the restaurant industry is rampant, like wild, and very fickle too. Like times are bad, it gets worse. You know what I mean? So then it's because people are human. So I think that's where
Yeah.
people like me and you saw our opportunity. I still do. And the mindset that I come from is collaborative. I know these facts, but I also know that most people don't take it seriously. And I think it's always cool in a contrarian kind of way, like, no, but beer is actually very interesting. Here's why. There's history, there's science, there's chemistry, biology, there's sensory flavor science, which is like not even well understood yet. And also, you look at competition in that industry. Am I going to be able to do something new? Am I going to be able to, like, get ahead? And just a ton of people are focusing on the wrong things, which means if you're sitting there studying, that material, there's now a whole swath of people that can't even handle the reading and the studying of it. If I had $1 for every time where someone's like, I want to learn what you know how to do, and okay, read this book. And it's this really simple, basic entry book to beer, and they just never read it.
Yeah.
They would just never read it. And it's actually, you see people working in the industry, and you're like, you touch these beers all day. Like, this book would be a breeze for you. But there's some sort of mental block. And when you cut all that away, and you're the guy actually reading it, studying it, and not getting addicted, not being good at drinking it, but being good at understanding it, you're in the 1% of the 1%. And I think that's where
we will be extremely useful in this hospitality scenario, right? We will be
and rare.
Yeah, rare. Yeah, absolutely.
So when people need actual work done with the stuff, that's a good opportunity for you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just the statistics, like most people just aren't competing. Like, you can get so far ahead right from the beginning in anything you do, because they're just not. Most people just aren't competing at all.
They do not give themselves a chance, I guess.
There's all sorts of situations. I used to, be more judgmental about it, and now I try to take a different, more understanding approach.
Yeah, because when we are in a different situation, that's I have noticed myself. Like, for instance, if I'm soaking underwater, I'm not gonna be able to relate how it feels
Right.
when I'm under the sun, right? because
Right.
people can only relate and understand if they're out of that situation. And for so many of us, I think they are never out of that situation. They never find that path. And this is what I'm trying to do with the podcast, I guess, having this conversation and have a lot of people talk about this very important topic about happiness, and we just talk about it, what makes us particular, what makes us happy, but also hopefully we understand, because there are so many things I could we can have a separate chat personally too. Like, I would look back when I'm 10 years back, and so many things I did right, and so many things I would say myself, like how dumb I could be to do that particular thing, right?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I owe a lot of apologies out there, and I'm coming to terms with it and understanding it now.
Yeah, Eric, let me take you to another chapter of this talk. I want to know one of your personal struggles, and tell us if you have overcome it. If you
there's one now, which is this pandemic, and living in a city like New York, and they've shut down the industry you work in. I run a big club entertainment venue, so that's shut down. And the one I work at is in Times Square, so it is the shutdown of the shutdown, and it's not looking like it's coming back soon. I know I've talked to them, and they say, oh, we're definitely coming back, but will that timing work out for me? Again, I have a family to look out for. So this has been a struggle for a lot of people. And there's, to be honest, more people have it worse than I do.
How are you keeping it?
How am I getting through it?
Yeah.
Just being as careful as possible. It helps to have a sense of purpose, like a child. That's, you talk about happiness. My happiness isn't even on the radar, and I don't think it really. I'm not mad about it. It just doesn't even occur to me as a priority, really. Now it's like what guides my decisions from point A are just totally different. So when you talk about like what was the mindset before and after him, the pandemic being coincidental, and at this point most of his life, he's young, has been in pandemic, been in quarantine. So my mindset before did include a lot more of my own like happiness, satisfaction, which I got from work, and I think we all get from work and from trying to be great at something. But now it's more, if anything, it's just be great on his behalf.
So Errol, your kid is giving you the sense of purpose. You are dedicating everything to him. So now you are taking yourself out of the equation.
Right now, my goal is to just, while I have the time, you see, that's the good news with this quarantine too.
Do you recommend people to have kids after they get married?
Not necessarily with no qualification and just blanket statement like that. No, I think that has gotten us into a lot of trouble. I think you don't always plan for it. Sometimes it just kind of happens, but we can control. So I don't think everybody should, but I think if you're considering it and you think you've always wanted to have kids, you're going to be great at it. And what's awesome is this past year, I've gotten to spend more time, close contact with him, and I'm just trying to teach him as much as I possibly can every day. Like the best situation are these days where you wake up, You read like 13 books with him, like right when he wakes up, get his brain going, and then you go and play, and he exercises, and then while you're teaching him, you're trying to connect it to everything around him, like
Does he
colors.
speak?
He's just starting to say mom, mama, and he goes like la 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 la, and it's so fascinating watching his brain work. I just love it. So
if our podcast would be on the internet, I think Errol is gonna be happy listening to his dad talking about him, like 25, 30 years.
I know. That will be cool. I'm grateful for all this time. It's like such an advantage to him.
This said, let us tell us something about Errol, man. We wanna. I personally wanna know a little bit about him.
He's just a
what is he
happy kid. He's a normal boy. He's a ton of energy, really curious. He wants to do everything himself. And you can see this at 14, 15 months he is. He's about to be 15 months. And you can see it. It's just really cool. You see the gears turning in his head, and he's thinking, and he's very smiley and friendly. He's curious. He's wonderful.
Wow.
And he looks like his mom, and he looks like his mom's mother, who passed away this year, almost like within 2 months of him being born. So she got to meet him, but he has a lot of her qualities, which is such an amazing gift.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Awesome. So, dear listeners, as I told you earlier, this is going to be the final episode for 2020. Also, this episode marks the end of season 1. So we did 8 episodes. It's a holiday season. Despite the pandemic and despite the craziness in the world, we want to wish our dear listeners happy holidays, Merry Christmas, be safe, be happy, healthy. We will be wrapping up. I still had 1 or 2 questions to Eric. Eric, so this marks the conversation with you marks the end of the first season, and in the first season I did 8 episodes, so we'll be closing this. Any advice you want to give it to our listeners? This is like a tradition I started. I usually ask one thing to stay away from and one thing to get into. So anything that from your which comes from your heart, from your personal opinion, anything you want our listeners to get away from as soon as possible and get into it.
I am no expert on happiness or wellness or anything. You know me, I'm kind of more like a
it could be. It doesn't necessarily have to be like happiness per se, but it could be something that you really feel, oh, I didn't know about it. Like for instance, running would be something I would say, because I recently started running. It's been like few months, and I'm like, why didn't I run for all these 34 years? Any particular habit maybe, or anything that you want them to start doing according to you, and something you want them to stay away from as well.
I mean, I'll say this year has been eye-opening. Like I said, I'm no self-help person or expert or anything. This year, I think a lot of illusions were shattered. I think, which means we had these wrong impressions. We were all walking around completely incorrect about things. Like all the people that are working from home, could have been doing that the whole time. It was an illusion having to go into work the whole time. If we were wrong about this, what else were we wrong about? And I think that's what people are most terrified of. People like to stay in comfort zones, but a lot of times people just want to hear information that tells them they are correct and their whole mindset is correct. And this is a vehicle that got you somewhere, but you have to adopt new ones. And it's like, I hate to, it's such a played out expression, but it really is this red pill, blue pill thing, which is, you're familiar with the movie The Matrix.
Yeah.
And it's become an analogy, probably was before that too. Red pill would be, you know, or blue pill rather would be the comfortable lies that we all live in, you know, the illusions we have and not having to see reality as it is. And the red pill, although painful, you know, tells you more about where you're really at and is reality, and which one you choose tends to say how you do a lot of things. And for me, again, I want to stay away from, you know, being judgmental of others. Again, I'm no self-help person, nor do I have it figured out or am I actualized. But the expression is, I'd rather be slapped with the truth than kissed with a lie. I think it was Napoleon or someone said that.
Wow. This is I was writing it down. I love this.
Yeah. Well, now you have a recording of it.
You know, so dumb. This.
But they're powerful mindsets, and I'm looking now and reflecting, like, what illusions do I have? What really just serves as comforting rather than helpful?
Yeah. I'm like really thinking David Goggins, that is. Like, that hurt me. Like, he says the same thing, essentially. You know, like, I mean, he's like fifth the reality. You know about him? David Goggins.
I've heard the name recently too.
He's the he suffered. He didn't have the perfect past. He has troubled childhood and everything. But despite his challenges, he is referred as the strongest man alive. He had done SEAL, and you know, he runs, and his mindset is just amazing. And he's just so straight. He recently released his book "Can't Hurt Me" recently, maybe a year, 2 years ago, and he did it in Amazon. You know, no publisher, but he's one of the bestseller. You find a lot of materials on YouTube, but what he speaks along the same line you just said. You know, do you want a blue pill, like comfortable lie, or like, you know, you face the reality, you just work hard and you improve. You know, I listen to him. Like today, like it's also not as cold like in New York City, but it's pretty cold in Kathmandu, Nepal. And I was like, I don't wanna run, but I played him. That's what he says. You know, despite challenges, despite the struggle, you do what you gotta do if you want to move from point A to point B. To exactly what you were saying earlier, because I don't think you said it right. People don't try so many times. People don't don't give a chance to themselves. And
people got stuff going on, and you know, that's understandable. We all got our priorities.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Eric, anything you wanna say?
No, right now, so I'm looking at, like, there's getting from A to B. Now I'm looking at getting from B to C, and I'm realizing the things that get you from A to B might not necessarily be the things that get you to B to C. You know what I mean? I miss you, man. I miss working together. I miss, man, there were so many cool people we used to work with.
I love you, brother. I love you. I've been talking. I was talking about you with my wife as well earlier, and while I'm talking to you, I'm recalling the moments we worked together in the floor. You know, um, those are amazing
Yeah.
times. Yeah, definitely.
Does your family listen to this podcast?
I don't think my mom and dad they know a little bit, but they they do not really understand English, right? My dad would, but
Yeah.
just from talking to you, you didn't understand the context. But he knows a little bit that I've been doing this thing. They don't know. My brother listens to it, and I've been. It's like I wanna develop a nice. I don't know how can I put it, like nice thing to do, nice hobby kind of thing, where also an opportunity to connect with people and why not take advantage of the amazing digital world we had, and document itself. But to answer your question,
that's
no,
pretty cool.
because they can't understand. Maybe
Do they realize like the level of work you did in the industry here in New York?
I don't think so, man. Like I don't know. Like anybody really knows what I did in New York. There's no.
Isn't that so
I never tried
crazy?
to
'Cause
translate it.
you could write a book
Yeah, I
about
never
that.
translated it. And I was also never a person who really want to show it to everybody. I guess didn't utilize Facebook and everything. But
For sure.
and the thing we did was so different, right? We had like
Yeah.
our passion and like really different, and not everybody gets that. But I'm okay with it now. We had this conversation. I
Yeah.
remember a long time ago, and you invited me. You were like, I would take you. I would invite you for Thanksgiving or something. You said, yeah,
Hell yeah. I don't. That makes sense. That sounds correct.
yeah. I remember that. That was so nice of.
I would love to have you for
And
Thanksgiving.
we would love to have you in Nepal, man, with Eric and Errol.
Everyone from Nepal I've ever met is
With Miss-
amazing. Like Nepali people are the nicest.
Thank you to all the Nepalese listeners, Nepali listeners. Also, I think it means a lot, and we all love you love to have you in Nepal one of these days. Okay, Eric?
Yeah. And do you know the best meal I ever had was food from Nepal? It was in. I was maybe 22. I was in a band and we were on tour. And when we got to Madison, Wisconsin, I always tell this story. For some reason, Madison, Wisconsin has a ton of people from Nepal. And we never had food like this before. And I just remember my mind being so blown. And even all those years working with Indian food, still my memory is this is the coolest meal I ever had. It was just so different and amazing.
I promise if you come to Nepal, I would make you eat a meal with hand. Okay, you're like I've done
Sounds
that
good.
with two or three other friends. I'm gonna do it with you as well.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have you wash your fingers really nicely, and
Yeah.
mix everything together. Hopefully, we could have that meal in our home. That would be.
That sounds wonderful. I can't wait for that when we can do that again.
Yeah, I really hope. All right,
Yeah.
brother. I thank you very much again from my heart.
Yeah.
Despite your busy schedule and everything you're going through, you giving this time to support my program. It means a lot, Eric. Thanks so much.
It was a cool conversation, dude. You know I love you anytime. Let's catch up again.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, and thank you, dear listeners. We wish you happy New Year in advance. Happy New Year 2021. Be happy, stay safe. Bye bye. Dear listeners, welcome to the 8th episode, the final episode for 2020 of the Wellbeing Forecast with